frank discussion on the law, life, and liberty. Sponsored by the LaHood Norton Law Group. And now, your objection sustained. Your hosts, Karen Klaus and former Bexar County District Attorney, NICO LaHood.
1200 WOAI, this is Sidebar. And did you put your plants in? Did you put your big coat out of the closet? Did you get ready for ERCOT to fail us again?
They said they're ready.
I don't know.
I always like starting the show on a positive note. Thank you.
That is positive. That is positive.
Are you ready to die? You know, there's someone I'm working on with, this guy from Canada, working on that book with, and they're used to this stuff. I mean, they have basements, the way their pipes are put into their homes. I mean, they have negative degrees, single digit, and they just have chains on their tires. So they're used to this kind of stuff. We freak out over here, and I get it. And then our homes aren't built for it. I mean, everybody's pipes are freezing and all this other stuff.
Our legs either.
Yeah, nothing. Nothing.
Legs are definitely not.
You want to bet on how many churches cancel service on Sunday?
No.
Come on. Don't you think?
Yeah, they will. I promise you they will.
For what?
It's cold.
Because their nachos are cold.
The nachos?
Nachos.
Oh, nachos.
Yeah.
What is nachos?
I think you're being needlessly cynical. I mean, if you just look back at the COVID era, churches were staunch in staying open. You know, I don't know why.
That's true. I stand corrected.
Well, welcome to Sidebar. This is where you will hear former Bexar County DA NICO LaHood, trial lawyer, managing partner of LaHood Norton Law Group, and George Araujo, scholar, former chemist, pharmaceutical researcher, and director. George, I met your sister this week.
Yes.
Love her.
Yeah.
Love her. And I always love your mom.
She's lovable. Yeah.
So great. I hope you get your family to move to Texas because that's nice.
I
Very nice.
To Texas because the way she cooks.
Yeah.
It's a little selfish on my part.
So I guess I must have had a bedtime before I got the last text on what the show was going to be about today. But I bring up the cold weather because, it's a good thing that there are schools we can move some of the illegals into and get the kids out of... wait a second. Get the veterans out and get the... Wait a second. What's happening? Why are the illegal immigrants getting dibs on places to stay, places to study, things to eat, warm clothes, while the rest of us, and I'm saying the rest of us because I am the rest of us, kind of suffer on groceries and bills and the rest. It's sickening to me.
Well, it is sickening. This is a consequence, too, when you don't have a border. I mean, and you got to think about the medical facilities as well, schools. I mean, law enforcement resources are being used up, jails, whatever the situation is. And look, people get illegal aliens, illegal immigrants. They're illegal, period, end of story. You can call them an alien, call them an immigrant, whatever you want to, whatever makes you feel better. But the fact is they're illegal. They got here illegally. They broke a law to get here, and they're being rewarded for it. And this is positive reinforcement of a bad behavior. That doesn't make any sense, and a justice system can't function that way. And so this is one of those consequences. So you have in New York that had this idea, this theory, this hypothesis that we want to be this sensitive place and we want to be a sanctuary city. Okay, let's see how it works out. Let's test that theory. Let's critically think and see what the consequence of that is. Well, the consequence is hotels have been taken over. The consequence is our kids, American citizens, are being told to go home and learn from home virtually. We already know how that worked out with COVID. It was a horrible idea. It was unnecessary, by the way. We need to talk about Fauci saying it about the whole mask thing, which that's not on the list, but that needs to come up today, of how wrong these people are. And their ideas suck, and they don't do their due diligence. And this is what happens. And we're the ones that are suffering for it. Everyone's suffering for it, Republican and Democrat. This should be a bipartisan issue. This should be an issue that President Clinton brought up in 1995 during the State of the Union address when he said the greatest threat to this country is illegal immigration. President Clinton, a Democrat, said that. You have Republicans saying it today. Everyone needs to be saying it because that idea is true. It's not a Republican or Democrat idea. At least initially it wasn't. Maybe it's a Democrat idea because President Clinton was talking about it in 95. Well, it's even worse today. And this is unsustainable. And when you got to the point, if this doesn't wake people the hell up, well then you get what you get. I mean, I don't know what else to tell you. If this doesn't bother you, your kid is being told to go home. I don't know what your working situation is, whether they're old enough to stay home by themselves, what they're going to do at home by themselves, whether they're going to really be on virtually and learn, and how did that work? Like I said, how effective is that anyway for illegal people that are here illegally? Period. End of story. That's it. So that is a benefit when you're breaking the law. So it doesn't happen in the justice system yet, but it's happening now. That's one of many situations. This should truly piss off Republicans and Democrats. All Americans should have righteous anger on this deal because this is ridiculous. And then you have to ask yourself, I'm just throwing this out there, we'll talk about it after, is why is this happening? Are we really saying that we can't control this? And then I know we're going to talk about Abbott's taking over of the park, which is a great thing, by the way. But why is this happening? And where does this go? Play it out. Let's do it. Play it out. So 300,000 illegal immigrants, illegal aliens were caught last month. Some records, some stats say that 85% got away. So this depends. Up to 85% got away. Where does it end? Where does it go? Where are they going?
But it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter how many they're caught because it's a catch and release system. So it doesn't really matter. Oh, they were apprehended. Who cares? What are we doing with them? We're letting them go into the American interior. And like you said, if it's not all of them, it's a significant percentage. So it's irrelevant where they were caught or gotaways. I got away from that stat as well because
that's a good point.
It didn't mean anything. And every article that you read, you get a different number because no one really knows. We just know it's a lot.
Yep.
And I realize that it's tempting to differentiate between the GOP and the Democrats on this, but I'm sorry, on the issue of illegal immigration, the GOP has been nothing but facilitating this problem. I just want to be very, very clear about this. A delegation of 60 GOP congressmen that went to the border, in fact, in Eagle Pass, about 2 weeks ago on January 3rd. And there you had Mike Johnson, right? About whom we had great hopes about him coming in. I'm sorry, with respect, I'm sure he's a dear man, and I respect his character a great deal. But on the issue of the budget, economics, the issues that basically ousted Kevin McCarthy, I don't really see Mike Johnson doing much better. I really don't. And now we're starting to see an uprising inside the Congress again, inside the GOP-led House, to hold Johnson accountable. Here we go again, because Johnson's playing games. And on this issue, he refused to be honest with the American people. I'm serious. He sat there and he talked in general terms about asylums, not necessarily being legitimate candidates for asylum and limited parole, limitations on parole, etc. But he didn't really talk, and the GOP, NICO, doesn't really talk in specifics. They don't talk in terms of impact to communities, to hospitals and clinics, to schools, to young workers, to families. They don't talk in those terms because if they do that, they're going to piss off the very GOP donors that benefit from illegal immigration. This is the problem. This is an economic cash cow, and everybody's got their hands in that pot. And so you're not really seeing you're not seeing a whole lot of passion, a lot of intensity. And Tony Gonzalez ought to be ashamed of himself because he's part of that same problem. And I realize that Johnson has to navigate between this establishment bloc and the more truly conservative bloc that is against illegal immigration. But we're walking over a precipice here. And the time for sort of wheeling and dealing with respect is over. I understand that his majority is minimal here. It's a small majority in the House. But is this not the time for a principled stance? We're erasing the national character of the country.
Yeah, this is a non-negotiable. George is right. And like I told you guys months ago, I said I'm the closest to a single-issue voter that I've ever been in my life, which is the border, period, end of story. Nothing else matters if we don't have a country and we don't have a border. And George is absolutely right. This is a non-negotiable issue. And you see McConnell, who's a fraud. You see McConnell and other people and Schumer in bed together with tying in Ukraine money with the border, and then they're even tinkering and suggesting that some of these illegal aliens serve in our country, which is going to give them a path to citizenship. And then, but have they been assimilated? Do they think the way we think? What do they think about American values? What is Americanism? And all these things that we used to learn growing up, what it means to be an American. This is not just, this is a melting pot, yes, but we have to assimilate to something. This is the same issue or a similar issue that took down Rome. There's no control. Rome wasn't defeated. Just study a little bit of history and say, what the hell are we doing? If we think that we can overcome everything, we're like 240 whatever years old versus Rome over 1,000. We're kidding ourselves. This is a joke. And so George is 100% right about some of these GOP hacks. They're not doing anything about the border. This is a non-negotiable.
I think that's an important point that you stated, that Rome, in fact, had a multi-front war. They were out fighting engaging in multiple military conflicts, but internally, their internal national character was being dissolved by people who had absolutely no connection to Rome. That's the problem. That's what we have here. We have individuals who are not being assimilated. And the federal government invites this because the Biden administration is coalescing another voting bloc that they believe will very dutifully vote Democrat. GOP donors also benefit from an economic perspective. That's why there's, again, very little discussion from GOPs in terms of particulars, in terms of the cost impact particulars, economically and civically to American citizens. And they seem to be okay with this. There's a handshake on this. And so, frankly, spare me going down to the border and standing there at Eagle Pass.
As they're yelling, coming across the border behind him, right?
Embarrassing.
In fact,
on the
so embarrassing.
In fact, I think, and I'm trying to remember the congressman who actually, I think it was Congressman Rosendale, who made the statement that even as I was standing there, you had 10,000 of them come across. And about 200 of them in that moment were identified as coming from countries of unknown origin and with very no paperwork, and these were individuals of high interest, and yet they were because of national security concerns, and yet they were let go and they were released into the American interior.
So George, what is it? So you're saying that Mike Johnson's a sellout like everyone else?
I'm saying on this issue, he's been as much of a sellout on the issue of illegal immigration.
But so he got.
Right,
how has he voted before? Because I didn't look at his. I mean, he came out of nowhere to me. I mean, so how does he voted before? And these people, they get away from how they got there. So he got there to represent his constituents a certain way, vote in a certain way, representing certain ideals and principles. And then they get away from it. I mean, this is. I mean, look, I get the pressure. I've been in a local situation, obviously, in politics where there's a lot of pressure.
But you didn't buckle.
Well, no, and that's it. That's what I'm saying. You have to be prepared to be a one-termer. When people say, "Oh, I want to run for office," what do you think? Can you give me some advice? Are you prepared to be a one-termer? What do you mean? Yeah. I mean, are you going to fold and be a puppet, and someone's always going to get your goat, or are you going to stand for what you're advocating today? Because if you're going to advocate for something, and you're going to get into office under that advocacy, and either you're going to be a fraud, you're going to be a prostitute, or you're going to be a principally placed person. That's what you're going to be. It's going to be one of those three things. Because either you're going to be a fake ass and then that you're lying to people, you're going to be a prostitute because you're going to sell out to money and control, or you're going to be principled. And that's it. And then let the chips fall where they may. And if that means you're a one-termer, be okay with being a one-termer because you went there for the quote-unquote right reasons, right? And so people get away from that. It's fear, it's lack of courage, it's lack of principle. And you think you believe what you believe until you're tested under fire. And that's when you find out what flaws you have.
That's well said. He asked an important question. It should be answered. Let's do that on the other side.
Okay, we'll be right back with more on Sidebar.
SidebarTV.com.
Salo and Dom are in the house. Thank you very much. SidebarTV.com. That's where you can go and join us right now or after the show.
Nico asked an important question. It should be answered. I don't really care what they say, how they vote, technically. What does that even mean? For instance, Mike Johnson supports and voted for the H.R. 2, which is a border stabilization bill. It's a good bill, really good bill. It has zero chance of making it through both houses. So I voted for that when you know that it has zero chance of making it through the House. These are actual bills that will actually curb the negative economic impact to everyday Americans, which is what Americans ultimately care about. By the way, illegal immigration is the most significant issue right now because people are finally tying it to direct economic impact.
Yes.
To their ability to keep the lights on, to pay for groceries. I don't know, man. Repair their car, basic expenses, right? That they deal with every single day. And so this is a critical issue. And this is a wonderful opportunity for GOP to take a principled stance on it and follow to its consequential conclusions. So it's not enough to say I voted for a bill when you know it's going to die. That's pretty cynical. Where I think he should really take a stand here. this is how I'd really believe him, is if he would tie government shutdown concerns to this issue. Because right now, here we go, continuing resolution to continuing resolution. He's still doing the same thing. This is exactly what McCarthy would have done. I really find it difficult to look at what Johnson has done in terms of his continuing resolution approach to what McCarthy would have done.
What's he saying? I haven't heard him interview on this.
No, I mean, he actually said that we cannot expect a government shutdown over this. Are you kidding me?
Over the border?
Correct. This is exactly the opposite of what should be said at this point.
The government's going to shut down eventually over the border.
Because I think because his calculus is, I've got a razor thin majority in the House. This is a huge election year. And I know that the Democrats are much better at manipulating the media than we are. And they're going to manipulate the media, and they're going to turn this thing on its head, and they're going to make us look like pariahs. And we're going to an election year, and we can't afford that. So we're going to look tough, we're going to sound tough, but at the end of the day, we're not going to tie Biden's dollars to this. And this is precisely the wrong thing to do at this point, because he is misreading where Americans are on this. This is not 2008. This is now. And people are fed up, and they're looking for politicians to actually take principled stances. And on this issue, Mike Johnson severely disappoints. I'm sorry.
I know it's so simplifying this, but whatever happened to them representing us? I keep on thinking, if Americans want this, if Texans want this, then why are we not being representative? What happened? Do we not have a voice anymore?
Well, the constitutional republic means that the representative and that goes into this public arena represents the people that said, go here, you be our representative. You're our agent for the principles and the ideas that we want advocated there. I remember when getting into office, I was in one of many, many meetings, and someone said, hey, this is what we're talking. It's like, oh, great, and great job, blah, blah. Can't look forward to working with you. This is how we do things. I said, who are you talking to? What do you mean this is how we do things? Who's we? You got a mouse in your pocket? And he said, this is how we do things. And I said, as opposed to what? In relation to what? The DA's office? Last time I checked, I'm the dumbass with the name on the plaque right now because I ran for this position. So if you're saying we, then I'm going to be involved in this we discussion. So the way you did things before, or y'all did things before, is not the way we're going to do things now. I didn't run on that. That's the way we do things anymore. And so I just took that stand. So I was a crappy politician. I got that. But I like to think I was a okay or decent public servant. A statesman, a stateswoman. These are people that care about principles, that actually do what they say they're going to do. It's not really that. It's really simple. It's hard in application, but it's really simple. But you have to have a gut check. You have to check your inventory of where you believe. And you don't know what you believe until it's tested. That's why James 1:2-4, I'm a biblically minded man, says, count it pure joy when you go through trials of many kind, because you know that the testing of your faith produces perseverance. Let perseverance finish its work, so you'll be mature and lack nothing. So you have to persevere to mature, and you have to know what you believe to persevere, or you're going to crumble. And then if you don't persevere, you're not going to mature. That's just part of the way life goes and the way things are. And so these politicians go into office with these ideals, and then they get tested. It's like the guy, the boxer that looks great on the heavy bag and the speed bag. The heavy bag doesn't punch back, and then they get in a sparring match and they look like crap. Because they didn't know. Now they're being tested. And so that's what happens with these people. I think some of them are very genuine and sincere. And then they get into like, oh, crap, I don't know what I signed up for. Yeah, you don't know what you signed up for. And that's the problem. And so here's what I tell people, and I'll pass it to George or you, Karen. We need good people in politics, but politics is not conducive for good people. That's the irony of this cycle. But we need people of fortitude. And then you get these people that maybe have good intentions, but then are goofy, and then they screw it all up, and then they're not really a representative for these ideals. And then they don't have this practical kind of gritty side of themselves. Look, you better be gritty if you're going to get into politics. You got to be raw. You got to be real. You can't be. That's why people like Trump are and that kind of, he broke the mold when it came to this polished, robotic, here's my podium mentality, here's my podium speech versus my pulpit speech and all this peas. Just be sincere. Be genuine, sincere. Be genuine about it and authentic about what you believe in, and
almost
fight for it.
Be a politician.
Don't be a politician. I mean, we don't need politicians. We need public servants.
And I wouldn't want to, getting back to Nico's point about perseverance, I wouldn't want us to get to a point where our pain points are so significant and so dire that finally we persevere. Things are getting to the point. Look, I'm with Elon Musk on this. I think he is saying exactly what is going to happen. When you start seeing students in Madison High School in New York being kicked out to go to remote learning so that 2,000 illegal aliens can be held up, and
play that out.
Play that out. and this isn't it. This isn't all. I mean, you've got investigations right now from House Republicans. I mean, they're doubling down on what is an ongoing investigation into the White House over its decision to allow plans to house illegal aliens on public land in New York. So, and these are public lands, part of the National Park Registry, that are not meant for residences. So there are serious economic and environmental impacts. This is a breaking of the law. Wow, that's a shock. So you have a federal government that systematically breaks the law. They don't care about that. And so Elon Musk weighs in. He says, if you think this is going to stop at schools, you're nuts. I mean, this is going to go to churches. They're coming for your homes.
Absolutely.
I've seen that.
We have European precedent of this. 5, 6, 7 years ago, Nico and I were exchanging texts from
Germany, right?
Exactly. From folks that I know in Europe that sent over videos in Italy as well, where you could literally see illegal aliens facilitated into residential housing. These are homes that are populated by people. You got people out in the street crying about this. No, this is not hyperbole. This actually happened. And if you don't think that this is a natural progression of events here, you're nuts. And what I'm saying is that where are we going to look to for assistance? Do you think the federal government's? Obviously not. Do you think they're going to help? Do you think politicians in Washington are going to help? Do you think the GOP is going to step up to the plate? We had high hopes for Mike Johnson. And with respect, Mike Johnson simply isn't doing it. Do you think he's going to help out? Do you think the United States Supreme Court's going to help? I hope so. We talked about it last week, Nico. We hope that they reverse the Arizona versus U.S. decision from 2012, which made this debacle, I think, possible, where they somehow pulled out of their rear, Anthony Kennedy did, speaking for the majority, that somehow the federal government has exclusive, I was going to say border security or illegal immigration management rights, like a state doesn't have inherent rights to protect itself. I don't know where they got that. It's certainly not in the Constitution. But who do you think is going to make this right? Answer, you're going to make this right. If you're listening, you need to make this right. You have a responsibility. Government exists by the consent of the governed. That's what this nation is built on. You need to take the initiative.
In what way?
Well, first of all, be informed. We're here to inform, to talk about it.
I want you to explain that, because you say you get somebody that takes that wrong. You got to explain what that means.
Be informed, and part of being informed isn't just being acquainted with the facts, the issues, the material facts, but being able to infer what the implications of those facts are on your very family, which it seems to me stunning that our representatives can't do that, Nico, that they can't look at this from just a basic human level and say, what's the impact going to be on my kids as a representative? So I'm sure that those individuals I'm assuming you went into public office, guided by your character and your convictions, and that should shape how you politique, how you engage the body politic. But what's happening is an exact reversal, where the politics now are shaping your character.
Yes.
Not you, I'm saying generally. Where the politics of Washington, the modus operandi, the status quo, is influencing the character of the politician, influencing the convictions of the politician. This is an exact reversal of how it's supposed to happen. And the answer for that is that the money is so much that it blinds these individuals. The scripture is right. The love of money is indeed the root of all evil.
The love of money, right.
Well, doesn't it seem though, like, let's just come back home and say Nuremberg is buying an entire hotel to put the illegals in as a holding place before they fly them across the United States. But the bottom line is, does he care about playing it out, as you say, or does he say?
Wait, hold on. Tell me, who's buying a hotel?
Nuremberg has now purchased, or the city has. No, it's done. They're starting to put illegals inside of a hotel in downtown, and that's where they're staying.
And this isn't without precedent. This is happening in New York.
I didn't realize that, but play that out now. This is where we're going to be like New York.
No, I know, but don't
forget
you
about
think,
our. You think people don't want to come here?
No, what I'm saying is, don't you think that Nuremberg doesn't care about playing it out, because he already knows he's on the right team that doesn't need to worry about playing it out? That's what I always say.
No way. That decision, city council voted on that?
I don't even think there was a vote. I think it just happened.
I don't know how that happened. Look, anyone that doesn't call their city council person and the mayor,
please, somebody should
and to complain about this, and someone clarify this, because that's ridiculous. You're going to use taxpayer money, city taxpayer money, to house illegal aliens. Well, I mean, because it's go to San Pedro and Oblate and say, go down there.
It doesn't look like America anymore.
It's ridiculous.
No.
I mean, how is this okay with anybody? Forget partisanship for a second. How is this okay with anybody? Give credit to the Democrats in the sense of Clinton's bringing it up in 95. Who cares who gets the credit? It's an issue. Bill Clinton was right in 95. Whoever's advocating against this today is right today, and anyone who's supporting this is wrong and is not serving the people. That is ridiculous. The fact, I'm telling you, every business downtown near that hotel should absolutely
100%.
make their voice heard, because that is going to hurt tourism. You think people are going to want to come here?
Property,
with a bunch of illegal aliens,
values,
and they're going to just be wandering. What are they going to do? Just stay in their hotel room all day long? They're going to be wandering, and what are they going to be spending? Who's going to be giving the money? Who's going to be giving that credit card to spend whatever, and their phone? And then what are they going to be doing? I mean, I'm telling you right now, this is going to be the destruction. And I'm not being hyperbolic. It doesn't stop.
This is in our backyard.
No, it's in your front yard. Forget your backyard. I mean,
absolutely.
But where does this go? Again, you have to critically think through this and see where it ends and where's the plan. There's no plan. That's the problem. There's no plan to stop this influx, 300,000. There's no plan. We're going to buy a second hotel because that hotel is going to be filled up.
Sure,
look at New York. They did the same thing with their damn hotels. And what happened? Now they're
look at the airport there.
And what's the natural progression? It can't be limited to hotels.
This is unsustainable.
That's the point. Numbers are going up. They're not going down. Like we mentioned 2 weeks ago, we had a delegation led by Blinken and Mayorkas to meet with Obrador in Mexico. And the outcome wasn't, hey, we got to stop this. The outcome was, how can we facilitate it? But do it in an orderly, what's the word? Regularized way, so that these significant peaks in migration, illegal immigration, which, by the way, didn't even show up in the roster, the term illegal immigration, it's migration. We need to do it in a regularized way so we don't piss off people. Let's not stop it, but let's do it in an orderly way. It's much more easily digested by Americans. This is nuts. This is the United States government turning on Americans.
Every county commissioner, every city council member, the mayor, the DA, the chief, the sheriff, everybody should be taking a stand against this. Everybody should be taking a stand. And anyone that doesn't, they need to question their convictions.
So we've heard Mayorkas and his bold lies. Now we hear Fauci and more of the same. We're going to continue with more after this break on Sidebar. To sidebartv.com and stick with us after the show. sidebartv.com. That's where you can find all the platforms. I have to ask you this every single week. Is your brother running for something?
Yes,
Nico, I saw.
Look,
No, I'm just kidding.
He's running against Steve Allison in 121 for state representative. And look, he's going to be unapologetic about the border. That's one of his main issues, amongst others, and DEI and all the other stuff that, unfortunately, Mr. Allison is not voting the way he advocated he was going to vote and the principles that he had. He's a nice guy, seems like, Steve. I've met him in the campaign trail a number of times. But we don't need nice people in office. We need respectable people in office that are going to do what they're going to do.
That's right.
And that's, Mark's been endorsed by Governor Abbott, by Ken Paxton, but everybody that knows that they know Mark's character and what he's advocating for. When Mark ran for DA, he advocated the border issues. And people criticize saying, what is the DA worried about border issues? Well, the DA is the county attorney. The DA gives advice to the county judge and the commissioners and is their civil lawyer, and not to mention the criminal district attorney position. So you're county attorney and you're the district attorney. You deal with misdemeanors, felonies, and then you deal with civil issues with the county that relate to the county. Yep. And it is a big issue because look at what happened. This is what he was advocating back when he was running for office about some of these issues. If I was DA still right now, I'd be in the dead square in the center of all this stuff, advising the county commissioners, the county judge against some of these things and what the legal ramifications are, and then I'd be square in the middle of this stuff. So this is what he's running. One of the many reasons he's running for office, and he's not going to compromise. Look, if Mark were to get into office, God willing, and he would not take the strong stance that I believe he will take on the border, I'll campaign against him next time he runs.
Good.
I promise you that.
Good.
This is how important this issue is to me.
I believe you.
My brother doesn't get a pass. I don't get a pass. If you advocate something, back up what you say.
That's
say
right.
what you mean and mean what you say, and then let the chips fall where they fall.
Kind of like Dr. Fauci.
And
Say what you mean.
I was going to say,
I want to start. Let's go Fauci. Can we start that,
Yeah.
please? Let's go Fauci. instead of
Finish
let's
what
go
you were
Brand.
going to say, George.
well, all I was going to say is that there's a silver lining in all this, and that is Greg Abbott. And as critical as we've been about Greg Abbott,
God bless him, man.
He's taking principled, actionable stances on this issue because he realized the criticality of it, and it really is a front porch safety issue for every man, woman, and child in the state of Texas. And what he did this week, I think, was impressive. This is not part of the SB 4. This is a law that he signed that was passed by the state legislature that allows law enforcement anywhere inside the state of Texas to apprehend illegal aliens and then put them into the system for deportation. And any local judge can preside over that. This is not part of that. I think this is Operation Lone Star, I think. Mm-hmm. This particular issue, he literally took control of a boatload of riverfront land that's part of Eagle Pass. This is in the Rio Grande sector, or the Del Rio sector, excuse me. This is a critical strategic area to do because the inflow of illegal aliens is it's inexplicable. And it's strategic, Nico, because there are 2 international bridges right there. And if you remember 2-3 weeks ago, this is part of what motivated Mayorkas and Blinken to go down to Mexico. So Mexico's freaking out because it's having a actual impact on commerce. I mean, a tangible impact on commerce because these international bridges are points of entry for commerce, legitimate commerce. And the amount of money that isn't able to be made because illegal aliens are basically preventing orderly commerce from occurring cause those bridges to be shut down. That's part of what motivated him to go down to Mexico. See, it's got to follow the money. If it interrupts the flow of money, then you have action. And that's what I'm saying. We got to go after the purse strings. But it's interesting that Abbott shut this area down, took control over it by using Texas National Guard and other military assets, and actually kicked out Border Patrol and said that Border Patrol does not have free reign in there. They don't even have access to it. And so that is an unbelievable action to take in what is otherwise a mealy-mouthed approach to illegal immigration by GOP politicians. Abbott, I think, did the right thing. And it's not like he did this overnight, right? He's been trying. I mean, my goodness, he's been at this for years.
Look, we call balls and strikes.
Finally.
You know that. And so we've been constructively critical of Governor Abbott at times when we felt it was appropriate. You know, it doesn't mean we didn't support him. I voted for him. I was going to continue to vote for him. But still, we got to call it what it is. It was a very well thought out, in my opinion, political move when he started busing people up north, because now he made this national attention. Because before, people just say, "Oh, you border people." Everybody's talking from the cheap seats in the back, saying, "Oh, why can't you guys do this?" Really, tell me how that works out. Well, this is what you should do. You're going to tell me what I should do when I'm the one dealing with it in the trenches, and you're up there in nosebleed. And then now they went from nosebleed to front row. And so, and now you saw their hypothesis tested, and Eric Adams is freaking out. The governor of New York is freaking out. The governor of Massachusetts is telling people to take people voluntarily, please take people in. Really? You don't know who these people are?
And if you say no, we'll help you volunteer eventually.
This is absolutely insane. Nobody does this. Who would let just anybody, homeless people, into your home? Or any stranger, forget if they're homeless or not. Who knows? You're in your bathroom, they're eating, you have no idea. You have kids, you don't have kids, you don't know if they're rapists, what they are, child molesters or murderers or nothing. Maybe they're just there, but you don't want a stranger in your home. What are you working for? I mean, this is insane. This is exactly what happens. And so Governor Abbott did the right thing by bringing this and making this. And DeSantis did the same thing, by the way. That was a good political move because it brought it out, peeled the scab off, and now everybody was forced to deal with this and look at this issue. And so this is the same way. Governor Abbott has been on national news talking about this. And look, this whole impeachment of Ken Paxton was significant because whoever the new AG would have been if he was impeached, do you think they would be taking these stances backing up the governor? Whether you like Ken or not. There's legitimate criticism of him. I've been legitimate. I'm not saying anything. I'm not taking any of that away. I'm compartmentalizing issues because two things can be true at the same time. Attorney General Paxton can have fallen short over here and not made good decisions, but then be doing something very good over here. Call them both out then, okay? Say this sucks, this is great. This is a great thing, what he's doing, backing up the governor and protecting the sovereignty of this state and this country, actually. They're on the front lines. And even Democrats should support this. This should not be a partisan issue, and it's turned into one, and it's flipped on us. Like I said, I'm going to keep bringing up Bill Clinton because when people try being up partisan politics, I want to throw that right back in their face respectfully, saying whether you had a Democrat president, someone that you revere and that a lot of people liked, they thought this was a big issue back in 95. It's still an issue. The issue is the issue. It hasn't changed.
And the timing is, I think, appropriate. I mean, it's been appropriate for some time, but it's particularly appropriate because the 302,000 crossings in December marked the highest single month crossing ever. So
how many times have we said that?
I know. We just break record after record after record.
It was 250 before. 250 is the highest we've ever seen. Now it's 302. Go on, sorry.
And this is why we've said it for forever. Now we're finally reading it in articles. Not because we're sages, but because we have eyes in our head. This is deliberate. This is a deliberate effort to destabilize the country. This is a communist-led effort to destabilize the country. The leaders in the federal government.
George, explain that to them, please. This is communism 101, right? I mean, they create this problem, and they come in to be the saviors, and they take more control.
Why aren't Americans believing this, though? That's the biggest thing.
Ignorance is not bliss.
This is Nico has spoken about this before, and I don't want to steal his thunder because
steal it. Go.
But this gets back to this notion of 4 stages of ideological subversion, and this has been known now for 6 decades. I know that we refer to Yuri Bezmenov, who's a former KGB agent.
YouTube. Yep.
Right, who came to the United States and began to speak rather openly about it. And we have a video from him. You can look it up. It's a 1984 video. He had interviews in 1985. I mean, through really most of the early 80s, through the mid-80s, he did a number of interviews.
Yuri Bezmenov.
And he spoke in very particular terms about the strategy that KGB agents would use to destabilize cultures in favor of communistic thinking. And he actually, I think he was the guy that said, look, people think that this is one giant espionage ring, but actually it's only about 15% of assets that are allocated toward espionage. It's 85% is really allocated to this notion of ideological subversion. You get inside of culture and you start basically discombobulating the way people think about themselves, about their own value system, about their own distinctives as a nation. And I just want to say right up front, there's nothing wrong with being a nationalist. I am a nationalist. I am an American nationalist. If you've got a problem with that, you can kiss my ass. Then get a dictionary and look up the definition, and you'll realize that there's nothing to it but rather good things. Every citizen on the face of the earth right now, in every nation, is in some way a nationalist.
Sure.
You
go to a Mexican soccer game.
I get it. I get what you're saying.
Irish.
Americans support American laws. Okay, we have a general appreciation and adherence to American laws. We generally accept the supremacy of the Constitution of the United States. We benefit from and we benefit American institutions. there's a general cohesion that all those things offer and that give us a sense of identity of what it means to be an American. That, last time I checked, is nationalism, right? So the problem is...
Democrats are nationalists, should be.
Yeah. Now, any strength taken to an extreme can become a weakness. And you can become what Hitler was, which was an extreme nationalist, tainted with just horrible racial policies. That obviously is not a form of nationalism that we're subscribing to here. But every person is in some sense a nationalist. And what we see is, and you study communism, is that what communists work to do is to basically separate the very citizen from their national identity and from their national value system, from the American, in this case, the American value system. This has been going on for decades. Even though Yuri Bezmenov talked about it in 1984, you can go back to Willard Cleon Skousen, who's a former FBI agent who wrote a book called The Naked Communist in 1958. And there he talked about 45 attributes, of 45 elements of communistic subversion of a culture. Now, it's tougher to remember 45 things than to remember the 4 stages of ideological subversion. So it's basically a different way of saying the same thing that Skousen said 26 years earlier, Nico. But so just so anybody who's listening, if you think this is one giant conspiracy theory and that The Naked Communist was some fringe book, I want you to understand very clearly, if you go into July of 1963, you're going to see every single one of those 45 elements discussed on the House floor. That's how serious our Congress was about looking at this. These are legitimate concerns. They're well thought out. They're rooted in history. And this has been going on for decades. And what are the 4 stages?
So demoralization, number 1. Destabilization, crisis, and normalization. And what Yuri says in the interview, and you guys got to go look it up, I'm telling you, Joe Rogan's even played this on, he's talked about it, he's posted on it, because it's eye-opening. You demoralize a nation. He thought that it takes 15 to 20 years and believed in 1984, we've said this before, Karen, that at the time, America's been sufficiently demoralized in 84, because that sets the stage for everything else. Then destabilization, he talks about how that happens, internationally and then locally and inside of our country to destabilize the norms and the traditional values of a country. Then 3, crisis. Now, back then he said it takes 6 to 8 days to have a crisis. We know it takes 6 to 8 minutes now with social media. That was back in 84. And then this thing of now, then you normalize things. The whole idea, and you heard about it during COVID, and you're going to hear about it now with these immigrants, these illegal immigrants. And hey, this is just the new normal. It's been normalized now. And so they're always pushing the envelope to what is acceptable, and it changes the face. And you take over a country without shooting one bullet.
Bezmenov wrote a book called Love Letter to America, where he discusses these things in details. You guys should look it up and check it out.
Okay, we are going to take a break, and we'll be right back with more on Sidebar. This is our last segment on 1200 WOAI, but please, if you are not already, join us on one of the platforms that we're on, and you can reach any of them by going to sidebartv.com. So
This takes decades, and it's been going on for decades. And I want to get back to his language to say what Bezmenov said, because this is again, a former KGB agent, and I think his language is important. Quote: "What does he mean by this intentional ideological attack? This demoralization? Its aim," he says, and I want to quote him, "is to change the perception of reality of every American to such an extent that despite the abundance of information, no one is able to come to sensible conclusions in the interest of defending themselves, their families, their community, and their country." Now, you should listen to that, and you should sense or perceive an eerily familiar concept here. That the country seems unable or unwilling to defend itself, to act in its own self-interest, in the interest of their family, in the interest of their country, in the interest of their neighborhoods. And this issue of illegal immigration, it seems to me, encapsulates that concern, our inability to defend ourselves. Indeed, we have a government that is blatantly ignoring federal law, the laws of the country, and it turns on a governor for enforcing the law of the country. This is, it's truly insane, and yet it's deliberate. This is the deep-rooted effects of demoralization and destabilization. We're past, and we're in, and we're going to remain in crisis. What's the last stage?
Normalization.
Yeah.
Think
exactly.
about this.
Where chaos is normal.
To change the perception of reality in every American. So to change the perception of what men and women are, boys and girls, to change the perception of that your child is your child and doesn't belong to the government, to change the perception that illegal aliens should take precedent and have to win over on what we call in the justice system competing rights over Americans, to change the perception of what a border is and what it means, to change the perception of our position in the country, to change the perception of business ownership and entrepreneurship, to change the perception of freedom, to change the perception of free speech, to change the perception of right to self-defense.
Exactly.
Just keep going. I mean, this is what we've been seeing. It changes the perception.
The perception on the Declaration, the perception on the Constitution of the United States, the perception on the Bill of Rights, the perception on religion, where atheism is now totally okay. I mean, this goes very, very deeply. This is a concerted effort, first between the American academic institution, the media, which proliferates this propaganda, and aiding and really subsidized by American taxpayers at this point. I mean, significant dollars are being funneled into this scam, and Americans are catatonic. We're just sitting here watching the train go over the precipice. It's like, Nico, what do we do? I know people are wondering, what in the world do we do? Is it too late? Hell no. It's not too late, but you better wake the hell up. Inform yourself, and this is personal. This isn't out there. This is here. This affects you, and we're a lot closer. We're a lot closer to the edge of cliff than we think. So this isn't about fear-mongering. It's about warning. And it seems to me, isn't warning, Karen, an act of love?
Yes, it is. But that, to me, goes back to what you were talking about last week. Why isn't it that Haley and DeSantis and Vivek aren't getting together and saying, we've got to back one person that's going to be able to do this, instead of continuing on this path to where? I don't know, nowhere?
I'm not going to speculate. I can only speculate like everybody else. Nikki Haley's, I just think she's really revealed herself. Chris Christie's just a hack.
Well, he's gone now, so we don't have to worry about him.
Well, I ain't going too far. I promise he's going to pick up a job somewhere doing
useful idiot somewhere.
That's all he's going to do. He's going to make sure his whole campaign was about Trump not being president. It's very odd, very weird. It's almost like a Robert De Niro. Trump
but all DeSantis said was, well, Trump didn't build the wall, and he said he was. Okay.
I think Ron
complete propaganda
is genuine in him running, but I think he was giving crappy advice, and he heard what he wanted to hear. I think he came out too soon, and I think because when you come out too soon, he wasn't prepared. He wasn't prepared for the national stage. He's done amazing in Florida, but he wasn't prepared for the national stage. He's awkward. He's got to be comfortable in your skin, and you get into a different bubble. It's like someone that plays football in whatever league or whatever district or division, and then they go up to the big boys or the semi-pro versus pro. Very, very different. MMA, fighting, boxing, whatever sport. You just fill in the blank. And then you realize that you were great in this area, but you're not prepared for this level. And that's my humble opinion about him. Vivek, I think, is very genuine. I know people have, I criticize his debate style. I love his interview style, but he's having very meaningful conversations. And he's doing it with people that other people have been afraid. That is the model moving forward.
You're right.
Vivek needs, the Republicans and GOP need to take that model. He's well informed. He's articulate. He knows when to get a little dirty. He's gotten more comfortable in his skin and when to be more perfect. And he goes and has conversations and goes into arenas.
He's not afraid.
No, that's what I'm saying. He's courage.
He's comfortable.
In
right?
his skin.
And man, I'll tell you, that is a great combination. And I would be stunned if Ramaswamy, should Trump win, and may he win, I would be stunned to not see Ramaswamy in a cabinet position. The other day, I actually thought I would love to see him in a press secretary.
Wow.
Press secretary role. Are you kidding me?
Good.
You don't think Ramaswamy can handle heat under fire on virtually any topic? He's talked politics, he's talked culture, he's talked religion, he's talked. At a deep level, at a thoughtful level. Now you come back and say, well, he has no experience, and in the words of politicians in the past, I think appropriately so. How's that worked out for us? How exactly is Mitch McConnell's 5,000 years of experience in Washington, D.C. helping us out right now? How's that working out for us? Or Joe Biden's. How's that helping us out right now? Listen, you can have 100 years experience doing the wrong thing. It doesn't make you more competent. And actually, between Biden and McConnell, you probably do have 100 years worth of experience doing, in many cases, the wrong thing for the country. No, I love what Ramaswamy is doing. I think he needs to keep doing it, and I'd be shocked. I'd be shocked to not see him in a Trump.
I don't know if he would take him. He's made comments before that he's not a number two. That whatever. Maybe that was
exactly what you would say right now.
You have to say that now because he's running for number one. So I get that. But who knows? Look, he's a provocative thinker, a provocative speaker. He speaks boldly. I think sometimes I think he had to find his groove. So he came out a little too ChatGPT, whatever the hell. I mean, Christie labeled him well because it was corny. He bothered me. His voice bothered me. His I thought it was that fake smile bothered me. All this crap bothered me. And then I think he overcorrected and came across as like, gosh, Trump, let Trump be Trump. You be yourself, Vivek. And then he kind of went over the board the other way. And I think he's found this, I'm comfortable in my skin. He's been weathered. This is what you need. You need this weather. And you remember that James 1, 2 through 4, this perseverance and maturity? He's persevered and he's matured. He's put his own money in this fight. He's been away from his family. He's taken threats. He's taken attacks. He's been in very hostile situations, debating issues that are relevant and to the American people, to all Americans. And I think he's weathered the storm, and I think he's seasoned. He's weathered, and I like that about him. So I think he's an important voice in conversations moving forward, regardless.
And skilled at holding the media accountable. And I put a lot of evils, what's going on in society right now, on the shoulders of the legacy media, because they know they're lying. They know they're deceiving. But because they're so partisan, because they're so ideologically committed to this neo-Marxist view of reality, they will lie, cheat, and steal to communicate lies to vulnerable Americans. And Ramaswamy called him out. I don't know if you guys saw it this week, he had a tit for tat. He engaged a series of reporters. He did it very, very well. And he flipped the script on him. It was
white
brilliant.
Supremacy?
Yeah. Well, it was a bunch of things. It was the Russian collusion.
Good.
And I was trying to go back to the questions. And so, did you lie about Trump-Russia collusion? Silence. Is Hunter Biden's laptop Russian disinformation? Silence. Did the COVID leak from the Wuhan lab? Silence. He went issue after issue after issue. I mean, you got to watch the video. Shoot it over to you.
Send it over to us, Tim.
You got to watch the video. I mean, you just sit. This is what you got to do. You got to call out deception. But why can he do that? Because he's informed. And it shouldn't just be Ramaswamy. It should be every single American, because that is the heritage of this country. To be informed, recognize objective reality, right? And argue for it, for goodness sakes. And unfortunately, Nico, we have never been so ignorant. We just have never been so ignorant as a nation. And what does Hosea 4:6 say? Hosea 4:6 says that my people perish for lack of knowledge. Knowledge is the ability to acquire facts. Understanding is the ability to organize them. And wisdom is the ability to apply them. Knowledge is foundational. It's the building blocks to taking actionable, meaningful, helpful steps to build a society out of chaos into order. and we've never been this ignorant. This is exactly what the founders did not want. He wanted our people to be informed.
We only have a minute left, but I do want to talk about Fauci. Hopefully we can talk about that on the after show. But people, if they don't see just what he said, and they start...
Well, just to wet your beak for the after show a little bit. So Fauci comes out and says, well, the whole 6-foot rule, I don't know where that came from. It just kind of appeared out of nowhere. Well, no, Sherlock. I mean, and it's the same with the mask or with anything else that they said was science, and don't deny science, and all these science deniers. This is the whole destabilization and demoralization and this whole inability to perceive reality. I mean, so they're claiming science and they're redefining it actually because there was no science backing it up. It was a lie. Period. End of story.
Correct.
And now it's too much. They can't deny all this stuff. And so he said that. He said the whole 6-foot rule. Well, what about the stay at home? What about shutting down your business? What about this? What about?
And this is about to happen because of another topic, the illegal immigration.
Same thing. I mean, you sat.
I know.
You sat in an elevator, and they actually told you to face the wall.
Yep.
In an elevator. I mean, this is absolutely stupidity. But look, guys, thanks for joining us. Hopefully, you enjoyed these conversations and you thought a little through them. Share them with someone you think may enjoy this, and join us for the after show for a few minutes after. God bless you. Have a wonderful weekend.
Okay. How is Fauci getting away with what he's getting away with? And why was it a closed door hearing that Fauci was part of? How does that even happen? You know, for him to explain.
It was a private.
Why is it a private thing? Because I keep on thinking,
what are you talking about?
Fauci.
Because that's what he agreed to.
He went, it was behind closed doors, a private, what was it? Like a...
With whom?
Wasn't it a congressional hearing?
Oh, okay.
And said, I don't know where the 6-foot thing came from. And, well, yeah, it wasn't a conspiracy theory. We did know about a leak at the Wuhan lab and all of the stuff that people were talking about and really getting hated on for saying before it's all true. But just like you said, the media.
He agreed.
Yeah.
He only agreed to a closed door testimony before the House Select Subcommittee on the coronavirus pandemic. And it's chaired by Ben Wenstrup. And so, yeah, I think a key highlight that bears mentioning is what he said concerning this 6-day, I wish, 6-foot separation rule that became almost biblical during the coronavirus pandemic. And we called bullshit on that from day one. I mean,
there's still stickers on the floors of every store that I've gone to.
From day one, we specifically said this is a crock of shit. There's no basis for that. They probed on it, and I think if you really investigate it, you'll see that it's based on a high school science project, and it was done by the daughter of a scientist at Sandia National Laboratory. Yeah, I'm dead
Seriously.
But it was useful. It was bullshit, but it was useful. Bullshit can be very useful. You can control people with bullshit. You can manipulate people with bullshit, right? I mean, sound convincing. You can put an enticing narrative around a pile of bullshit and control people. And that's what it was for. It was to control people. There was no scientific evidence of that whatsoever. And then not just that, it was the masks. What a huge fucking scam that was. And we talked about it all the time. I feel very, very personal about it and very, very intensely about it because I don't like seeing human beings hurt like that. I mean, we really just completely diminish the humanity of people.
Horrible, man. It was horrible.
You cover people up. I
absolutely
mean, they're
horrible.
walking around in fear. They're skeptical of each other. I mean,
You
it was
forget how to
nuts.
smile. You forget how to engage somebody. You forget. I mean, there's people today. I was walking. I counted it. There's in our building where we work, and then also just in different areas, you see young people walking, and some older, but more with younger. And there was this young man, but this the way their posture, they don't walk with confidence, and he's approaching, and I'm purposely trying to make eye contact with him, and it's just this lack of. And I was like, "How you doing, sir?" I was like, "Oh, hi." And then I mean, this almost this fear-riddled person that is this skeleton of a person left after, because fear is powerful. It's gripping. It'll freeze you, right? Scared, stiff, because it just does something to you. And then you won't do anything. You won't push back. And then you're afraid of being canceled, afraid of this, afraid of that. I mean, you can't live your life. You can be afraid of something, but you can't live your life fearfully. That is a condition of your mind where you look at everything and everything's a threat and this obsession with safety. Then don't leave your damn house.
Yeah.
What the hell are we doing?
Ever.
I mean, so it's a bunch of bullshit. I mean, if that's our standards, ultimate safety, well, then you won't live life.
Yeah,
Period.
right.
And you won't have kids. You won't open up a business. You won't take on a job. You won't try for a promotion. You won't say no. You won't criticize. You won't critically. You won't encourage because you're afraid of pissing. You're living fearfully, and this is what's happened to us. And so Fauci and Burke and all these sons of bitches, and I say that because it had so much effect on people. People were forced to take a jab when they didn't really want to, and then we haven't looked at the VAERS numbers forever. The vaccine adverse reaction.
I'm afraid to even
adverse events
see
reaction
what it is.
system. I mean, they were horrific back when we were looking at it every week. Horrific. I mean, there's no other drug that would be kept on the market with even a fraction of the numbers that VAERS was showing on the vaccine adverse
And
events.
now they're still
reporting system.
asking for people to get boosters.
I mean, it's insane. Now, thankfully, more people have woken up.
And nobody thought it was unusual that even though it's a CDC system, it's supposed to be presided over by the CDC. The CDC was throwing its own system under the bus, and nobody seemed to think that was a problem. Remember, I realized that anybody technically can file a VAERS case, but what should happen, and they don't do that, is they should follow up, investigate it, get to the bottom of it, see if there's any credence to the claims that are being made. But just qualitatively, Nico, even without going in and verifying the veracity of it, we saw a spike. There was a clear spike week after week after week in those
the
adverse
numbers.
events.
Oh, yeah.
So even though there weren't investigations to find out if those claims were legit, we were just saying we see a pattern here that should be investigated.
But
there ought to be
also-
some intellectual curiosity about
But
this.
you and others brought up the fact that we were looking at insurance numbers, too.
Sure.
On deaths and unexplainable death.
And death certificates, yeah.
Death certificates. And even these insurance companies what the hell is going on? And again, yes, correlation, not causation. I get it. But correlation to me means investigation.
Sure.
Investigate this shit. I mean, what are we doing? I mean, so you have this
an
high
indicator.
number of spike in all-cause mortality. Then you looked at
Exactly right.
the other information. So and even Fauci and all these other hacks said we're being very judicious and generous on diagnosing or labeling COVID death. So you die from a car accident, you test positive for COVID, is a COVID death.
Yeah.
Bullshit. That's not a COVID death. You might have died with the virus, whether it manifested in symptoms in you or not, it's irrelevant. It's another issue. And people have to understand virology to be able to engage in this conversation, even at a basic level. But that was considered a COVID death. And then when you monetized this, it became extremely monetized, where hospitals were be giving X amount of dollars if you put someone on a ventilator, even though the vast majority of people on ventilators didn't survive.
Exactly.
I mean, so they're perpetuating this problem, and then you combine it with ignorance, and then you sprinkle on a shit ton of fear, and then you have the catastrophe we had.
And you have a statist approach to debate where you can't even raise questions. You can't even ask these questions. Like the basic things Nico's saying right now, you couldn't raise that because you were seen as non-scientific. You were seen as being against science, right? And I remember when Fauci at one point said, "I am science." I mean, the hubris and the arrogance of that bullshit. I mean, science is inherently curious. There are no sacred cows in science. In fact, a truly scientific enterprise, as they say, makes burgers out of sacred cows. I mean, there's a natural spirit of curiosity built through the true scientific enterprise. And that's truly what scientific inquiry is about. And we would raise these basic questions from the beginning. And guys like Fauci would work very, very hard behind the scenes, particularly to censor those things. He, in concert with Francis Collins, who was his boss, the head of the NIH at the time, working very, very hard. We have a slew of emails by virtue of congressional investigations that have occurred that show them deliberately working to subvert legitimate questions and to push a narrative that was decidedly illogical, particularly on this whole nonsense with face masks, which we just thought was just a huge injustice perpetrated upon the American people, particularly young school children, as they had to wear masks in school, which had a direct effect on their ability to learn because they couldn't communicate. I mean, children are especially when they're young like that, they're developing just communication ability, just facial expressions. To put a fucking mask on a kid and to insist that they wear this mask 7 hours a day in school,
even though they were never in the group that was threatened in anybody's
and we
world.
Knew, and we knew from day one. We knew. Look, the average virion, which is a viral molecule, is 100 nanometers. I remember bringing this up in the early stages and just saying, "Look, guys, this is well established."
How many nanometers can you fit in the circumference of a hair follicle?
Well, 100 nanometers is about 1/100,000th the width of the human hair.
Hold on. I got to translate that. So the average viral molecule is anywhere between 80 and 240 nanometers. That's why I think the standard, people say 100 nanometers as a roundabout. They're different sizes. And you can fit,
right. Yeah.
you can fit 80 to 100,000 nanometers within the circumference of a human hair. Is that a good way to describe it?
Oh yeah, right. So
let that sink in.
Keep going. It's about 1/3. But remember, the whole thing was you got to wear a cloth and surgical mask because they're fine. People walking around, they're making masks out of whatever. They're pulling their garments up, until
if you
they
pull
say,
a hair out of it.
And then
No, it's not
good
good
enough. You actually have to buy. So there's a whole industry now around the mask making industry. It's a cash cow. So now, just to give you a comparison, that the cloth and surgical masks are limited at about 3,000 nanometers. So anything smaller than 3,000 nanometers is going to get through. A virion's 100 nanometers average. So that's about 1/30th the size. So, wear your face mask.
100 nanometers. Okay, it's hard to visualize this. Pull out one of your hairs. So 100 viral molecules on average 100 nanometers. I mean, I really in the circumference of a single hair strand, you can fit 80 to 100,000 nanometers in the circumference of a hair follicle. You think your bullshit face diaper is going to stop that shit? If it's 6 feet and the projectile. Yeah. I mean, this was the insanity. Right. And then you walked into a restaurant and you wore your bullshit mask.
That was
and you
hilarious.
stayed your 6 feet. And then you sat down and these nanometers, these viral molecules knew, oh crap, they're at the table sitting down eating their burger or whatever the hell they're eating. Let me hold on. Hurry up. Well, there's someone else walking in. Let's leave this prick alone. Let's go over there. I mean, this is and then they take off the mask and I saw it over and over. I started taking pictures because it irritated the shit out of me. And then they put it on the table, just on the table or in their pocket or wherever else. They didn't treat it like the sacred savior.
It had to be filthy. There's bacteria all over it. Right now,
What's
you
going
got
to happen to Fauci? Is
nothing.
anything going to happen to him?
And this is why we're talking about this. What is the
he has monetary ties. Sorry, George.
He does.
He has monetary ties to the vaccine.
Big
now,
time.
you tell me, and some of these organizations, and Bobby Kennedy and his organization brings all this shit out all the time. He has monetary ties. You have a monetary, that's like me when I was DA saying I get paid for the more people that go to prison. It's the same. It's the same analogy to me. Or it's a damn similar one.
Yeah.
So you get paid more money the more people you send to prison. I get lesser money for people that I convict, even if I put them on probation. But I get more money if I send them to prison.
Everybody's going to prison.
Exactly.
Right.
When you monetize our healthcare system, which is not, it's a disease management system. When you monetize the healthcare system, you're going to have problems because money, the love of money.
Exactly right.
Scripture says is the root of all evil. Not money, the love of money when it becomes your idol.
Conflict of interest. I mean,
people don't know this stuff.
And he knew, and Fauci knew, because we have him on 60 Minutes saying one thing about masks, and then miraculously 2 months later, the science changed. No, dude, it doesn't work that way. This is decades. This isn't minutes of science. This is decades of scientific precedent. It doesn't just change like that. I mean, come on, this is obvious bullshit. Setting aside decades of scientific precedent as it pertains to influenza-like illness. Nico just got over the flu, and we had
the whole family. So the whole
we had occasion to talk about this.
Yeah, it was a flu type A. It went through our jiu-jitsu school. It just happens. This is the way it goes. So our daughter got it. Our son got it. Davi got it. And then she was literally, for my wife is a super mom. And for her to be in bed, literally didn't leave bed for 2 days. It was flu A or whatever it was. And so I couldn't avoid them. I mean, you quarantine the sick.
Right.
But what are you going to do? You're a daddy, you're a husband. I'm rubbing her back. Her body was aching. I'm giving her back massage. I'm trying to take care of Michael. Michael, our son on the spectrum. And so he's miserable and he can't verbalize what he's feeling. So that's always a challenge when a child on the spectrum is ill. And then Maya, who never gets sick, she got really bad. Thank God Leah and Zyther didn't. And so then Maya's not feeling good and she goes, Papi, will you lay down with me?
You're like, oh, no.
I mean, what do you do? What do you do? What does a daddy do? Dom, you're going to get there someday when you have a child, especially a daughter.
I tell my daughters, get the hell away from me.
Not daddies.
I
Not
know,
a daddy.
I
A daddy,
know.
you lay down with your daughter, you get sick. I mean, that's the way it is. So New Year's Day, it was off, right? And so it's about 1 o'clock, 12:30. I'm walking through the kitchen. I'm going to go to the garage to work out. And I said, Chula, it's a term of endearment in Spanish. I said, is it cold in here? And she goes, no, not really. I was like,
Oh, no.
why do I have chills? And she goes, because you're going to, I was like, shit.
Yeah.
And so I'm that night, because the aches came in the body, my head hurt so bad, my eye sockets. Thank God, took a lot of natural stuff and vitamins, doubled up on my vitamins. In 36 hours, I felt better. But you have this lingering cough. And they were sick for about a week. And then thank God they're better now.
And these provide anecdotal illustrations, and there's a lot of value to them. There's a lot of science behind the anecdote here of how viral infections work, and
we're all over the place.
And you remember there were people who were comparing the flu with the coronavirus, and it was like the second you would bring that up, it's like you were a mental midget.
Right.
And it's like,
right.
hey, and I almost had to say, hey, calm down there, cowboy. I get it. I get that influenza and coronavirus are different viruses. I got it. But they're both respiratory based illnesses.
Yep.
And they behave similarly.
And
in terms of how they're transmitted.
And how many flu cases did we have during the COVID insanity?
0.
Very little. I mean, literally. I mean, this is not me making up. Go to our scientist over here. He'll tell you the data.
I don't know anyone who died of cancer during that time.
No.
No one died of cancer.
No one died of
heart attacks. No one died of the flu.
Mm-mm.
No heart attacks. No nothing. But every flu case that forget flu vaccines. How do we get rid of the flu? Everyone get COVID. I mean, everyone had COVID. No one had flu. I mean, how does that work?
It's so true.
Did the flu virus know, like, oh shit, I guess it's not our turn. We'll wait. Let COVID.
We'll have the spotlight.
It doesn't work that way.
But this is still going on. Look, hospitals are bringing back requiring, and clinics are bringing back requiring the use of face masks.
Ugh.
It's happening across the country. So this is what I mean. We've lost our ability to think rationally. It's a fractured American mind. This is the extent to which statist authorities can now get people to shut off their brains, check them in at the gate as you walk into a building, and you turn people into automatons. Total reversal of the American
But during
experiment.
that time, if you just asked the question, just asked the question, you were canceled. You were called a lunatic. You were called a conspiracy theorist. And that's why when people like Joe Rogan, and why I give him so much credit, and people like Bill Maher, who I disagree with on a lot of things, but I love his pushback, and he's not too crazy. When Joe said, hey, I mean, he talked about ivermectin. Everyone, you were shut down.
Oh, man, he got destroyed on that.
No, he didn't.
Right.
He came out like a champ, but they tried to. And he embarrassed them because he used his platform appropriate, and he was a free thinker, and he asked good questions, and he brought on Dr. McCullough, he brought on Dr. Malone, he brought on Bobby Kennedy, he brought on people that would talk about these things and let people think. Make your own decision, but when you have informed, there's something called informed consent, and everybody uses it. Informed consent means what? You have to be informed. And to be informed, you have to have all the information. So you have one people advocating this, fine. Does the evidence back it up? You can make whatever claim you want, but is there objective evidence to back it up? But you can't be fully informed if you don't have the other side of the argument and everything in between.
And all of that was taken away from us.
Everything was taken away. And when you got to shut someone down, I remember I said this back then, I said, it's like going into court and you have your trial lawyer and the judge and everybody shuts you down. You can't make what are you afraid of? Let's present the evidence. Let the jury of your peers, the court of public opinion, make an informed and come back with the verdict they want to come back with.
Exactly.
But present the evidence to them. And guess what? All the nut jobs and the shitty ideas will fall to the waste time where shitty ideas go, because people can think and people have rational behavior. I mean, logic. And we can critically think, spar with ideas in our mind,
Amen.
and come up with the answer ourselves.
And
that's freedom.
And what's particularly compelling about this type of evidence is it doesn't just come from a corner of science. This is established evidence. This is the kind of stuff that's been in biology and immunological textbooks forever. It's well established. We didn't say anything that was new here. It wasn't radical. Okay, it wasn't knowledge isolated to Sidebar. I mean, we knew that.
But it was radical.
I mean, you could read it in all.
Right.
Coronaviruses aren't new. They've been around for a long time. They've been studied for a long time. When we said that the average coronavirus coronavirion was 100 nanometers, we didn't pull that out of our ass. You can read that in textbooks. It's verifiable. It's 100 nanometers. When I say it's 1/100,000th the width of a human hair, I can look that up. I can confirm that. That's it. You know, when I say it's 1/30th of the average cloth mask, we know what the parameters on cloth masks are because they've been around forever. This has been established in the literature. It's 3,000 nanometers is about the cutoff. I mean, even there's certain strains of bacteria. E. coli, the average E. coli bacterial molecule, I think, is around 2 microns or 2,000 nanometers. Even serious question about cloth mask will even stop E. coli. So you might ask the question, why is a surgical mask even useful then? Because when a physician is operating over an open wound, you don't want sputum. It will stop sputum. You don't want spit to end up in an open wound. So from that perspective, it's very useful. But that's not the only personal protective equipment in there. That's not the only measure of containment. You also have very solid, strong HEPA filters that are inside these AC systems in surgical rooms. I mean, I didn't work in a surgical room, but I was a supervisor in vaccine sterile quality operations at Merck and in other facilities, and these had containment systems, HVAC systems that were complicated and had great filtration to help measures of containment. But my point is, we were bringing things up that were well established. This is in 2020. I remember in May of 2020, while this was going on, about face masks, while the CDC via Fauci and others are telling you to wear face masks because it really works everywhere you go, including when you're making love. While they're saying that publicly,
oh my
Nico,
God, I remember that.
They said that.
The CDC is releasing. The CDC has a very good scientific journal called Emerging Infectious Diseases. That's where real science works. The other stuff's propaganda. And I'm reading in May of 2020. It was released in May of 2020, volume 26, number 5, Emerging Infectious Diseases by Chow et al., where they're talking about how they have 10 randomized controlled trials establishing that cloth and surgical masks provide no significant protection against the transmission of influenza-like illness. So you have a paper across 10 randomized controlled trials released by the CDC in their publication, Emerging Infectious Diseases, and yes, you can look that up. And meanwhile, their propaganda arm is telling you the exact opposite. How's that okay? You bring it up and you're not following the science?
Okay,
Bullshit,
I have all the stupid questions.
About the face mask during making love?
No. That's a paper bag.
That's a bag. You have like a head condom on. It's interesting.
The paper, it replaced the paper bag over their head.
Yeah.
No, listen. Okay, so, and I'm not trying to be mean, but
Yes,
I am. I still see people wearing masks. Okay,
Right.
And of course, even when all of this was going on, you said everybody has a choice to wear their mask. If they want to wear a mask, they can wear a mask. Then the news came out, the mask does absolutely nothing. So I have been seeing more and more people wearing masks.
I haven't seen them as much as I thought I was going to. I've seen them.
I don't want to say that like I am some scientist, but I would say that it's more women than men. For some reason, it's like I see a lot of women wearing masks, and I don't know what that is. But so to that person that's wearing the mask at HEB or wherever they are, what is the mask doing? I just want to know.
It's a whoopee cushion
what?
for them. It's doing nothing virology wise. I mean,
what would they be wearing it for?
I don't know, baby.
The
They're
CDC
worried.
itself practically said that.
They already did say
verbatim.
that. Yeah.
I just mentioned an actual paper, but even in their publications outside of emerging infectious diseases, you can see remnants of sanity. I mean, but clearly stated. Remember, we used to share what was called the public health guidance. They put out what was called public health guidance for community-related exposures. They would print them every week. Public health guidance for community-related. You can look it up right now. The one that I remember was from July 31st of 2020, where it specifically said that with or without masks, surgical masks, with or without masks, if you're in the presence of a person of more than 15 minutes who is infected and the viral load is significant enough, you're going to get infected. This is in the public health guidance for community-related exposure by the CDC. The publication that I remember was July 31st of 2020. This is in the middle of the furor of wearing a mask.
The big stuff, yes.
Okay, this gets back.
But that didn't get
Published.
airtime.
No,
that
correct.
didn't get airtime.
No, the
That would
propaganda
have
said
shut all
something
this.
very,
If
very
it wasn't
different.
for censorship, I said this over and over
Exactly
again.
right.
I
We
agree.
would not
Which
have
is
fallen
the
for this crap.
hallmark of a neo-Marxist, communistic
Right.
society. And this
I'm
is
looking for this picture.
This gets back to ideological subversion.
Yes.
Where you know what's true, but they tell you the opposite of what you know is true. And then there's a censorship apparatus should you deviate. Should you say, you know what, with all respect, I'm an American. My rights are vested in the Bill of Rights, the substance of which is vested on the notion that there's a creator and that my rights, my human rights, come from a creator. The government can't take them because the government didn't give them. So with all respect, fuck off. I'm going to say what I want to say
Right.
when I want to say it. Okay? And if you get offended, that's not my problem. I'm not going to try to offend you, but as we always say, we're not going to try not to offend you.
George, you're very angry.
I know.
And so,
I'm getting scared. I don't want to
prefer
be
to
in
think
here.
of it as being direct.
You're very angry.
I'm going to go get my mask.
You're an angry white
And-
nationalist.
Prick.
I love it.
I'm
I
looking
love
for this
it.
stupid ass picture.
I'll take that as a badge of honor. But what we saw was this curve downward in you want to talk about a lack of profile and courage. I mean, you couldn't find courage if it bit you in the ass in those days. And it was beyond frustrating. And for me, it was heartbreaking because I love this country and I'm just so deeply grateful for the opportunities it's afforded me and my family. I'm just so grateful for America. I can't put it into words. And words don't usually fail me, but here they do. I don't have enough positive gratitude-related adjectives to explain just how grateful I am for this country. And when I saw these precious American people turn over their autonomy to a government that was decidedly not working in their best interests, a government that has been completely taken over, indeed suffused. And this is really every bureaucracy that you can think of. I mean, this is not contained to the media. This isn't contained to our institutions. It's not contained to the federal government. This is now in our military, for goodness sakes. This has now consumed the Pentagon.
Yeah. The
Pentagon has doubled down in what they call diversity, equity, and inclusion. That they want to do diversity-based recruits. This is an increasingly incompetent and dangerous Pentagon to American citizens.
But fire those that didn't get the jab.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And corrupt to the core. And we have, I mean, there's Pentagon audits that happen all the time. The latest Pentagon audit that just came out basically established that about I think they looked at $1.7 billion in military assets. They looked at drones, they looked at bombs, they looked at other munitions that were shipped off to Ukraine. The Pentagon admits that they've lost track of $1 billion worth of weapons and munitions that have gone to Ukraine. And yet they have a significant lobbying network to legislatures to give them more money. I mean, maybe
they should go ask
I'm just focusing
Afghanistan for some
on Ukraine. Look at, because we have 29, I think there's 29 sub-bureaucracies inside the defense, our defense sector or whatever, our defense infrastructure. And those bureaucracies are responsible to oversee something like 1.7, no, it's more than that. I mean, it's multiple trillions of dollars worth of military assets. And if just in Ukraine, we've lost track of $1 billion out of 1.7 billion, then can you imagine that problem propagated over trillions? The corruption associated with that is just, and this is a hallmark of communism. It's a corruption of your thinking. It's a corruption of the system. It's a corruption of your law. It's a corruption of your value system. They corrupt and corrupt and corrupt. And one day you wake up and you realize you're exactly the opposite of how you started. And people say, how did we get here, Nico? And what do we do? How do we get back to where we were? How do we do that? you got to work your way back.
Well, I mean, that's a long answer. But I mean, we didn't get here overnight. We're not going to fix this overnight. It's got to this. This is a game of inches. I mean, you have to think long. You have to play long ball, not immediate. So we get here. People realize that they have this. This is what I think is happening, especially people that are traditional conservative. Whether you're, I mean, there used to be a conservative Democrat, by the way, but whether you're traditional conservative, you just don't like the way this is going. There's this realization, this oh shit moment, and then they want to fix it overnight. And if you can't fix it overnight, they go back and get discouraged.
Exactly.
And then they go back and then they get frustrated again. It's like, now that's a whole new level. And they get pissed off again. And you hear all this noise. And then, oh shit, and they go back in. Look, I mean, you have to know that you're going to persevere. You're going to go through some stuff. You're going to inch your way back into this game. You're not going to get out of this right away. I mean, we've created a prison of ourselves. And you have to chip your way out of it. And it's going to be a little spoon at a time, little bit at a time, edging your way out of it. It's just that simple. You get the little file in the bread, take it out of the bread, and start sawing little by little. Pick it up, keep on sawing, and that starts by education, caused by information. It's caused by courage, having conversations with people, trying to change people's minds, not trying to shame them into why you're right and you dumb dickers. No, just win them over, win them over so they can vote differently because it's all about the vote. It's all about who we send to represent us in local, statewide, and national positions. And it's all about the character of those people that go, because we talked about Mike Johnson and all these other people where they have this ideals and then they get into this arena. And it's like, well, no one prepared me for this fight. This is a whole different level. In Division I, I was this. In Division this, I'm not. I'm not on the JV team anymore. And then they fold because they want to go along to get along because they're uncomfortable. And people have to be comfortable being uncomfortable. Because the other side was. The other side didn't mind being uncomfortable when they were called names and this, and they kept on forging forward because they were more determined. Are we more determined to save this experiment than whoever they are is to change it? It's that simple.
And we can still vote, and votes still matter.
Oh, yes.
And showing
Every
up
single
still matters.
person.
And there's some serious questions about where people are going to show up at the Iowa caucus.
That's what I was just going to ask
because
about.
Of the weather right
That's
now, because of
But does it
horribly frigid
matter?
temperatures.
Does it matter who wins the Iowa caucus anyway? Trump didn't win last time, did he?
It didn't, but it's now particularly significant because Trump's been riding this wave of general, just at least on the aggregate, this wave of indomitability. I mean, the real clear politics average puts him
he needs to win significantly.
He does. I mean, he's had
to keep this
virtually
momentum.
every poll, virtually every poll, and the real clear politics average puts for Trump at an average of 34 points ahead. Nikki is 17 points, and Trump's at about 51, 52 points. So Trump's going to win Iowa. And then there's the question of New Hampshire, and I see a lot of propaganda, and I'm trying to push.
Look, Trump did okay on that town hall. I think he did well. I mean, he still gets into his Trumpisms, and and he doesn't answer the question
stick
directly.
to the script,
right? The thing I like about
carries
Vivek,
on and on and on.
Yeah, Vivek answers the question. I mean, he does his own. He's a skilled interviewer, so he gets his points in. He answers the question he wants to answer, but he still addresses the question.
Vivek's precise.
You have to, yes, right? He's precise.
Yeah.
And Trump's not. And so, and then he starts. And I just think we're so far past me humbly, but whatever. He's winning. He's going to win. I'm going to vote for him anyways. It doesn't matter. But the whole Ron Sanctimonious stuff and all this. I mean, just forget me. You're that far ahead. But his demeanor was right, though. I'm glad he had a good demeanor. He looked more presidential. He was calmer. He even spoke to somebody that was going to caucus for DeSantis, and he said, "Thank you for your, And so, look, I think I don't know if he's matured in that way. Maybe he's listening to someone saying, "Trump, Don, you don't need to do anything crazy. Just keep the ships sailing right. Keep this momentum. Don't give it back." It's like that 300 mindset that I always tell people about, and men especially.
I love that.
Take everything and give nothing, right? You got to take everything and give nothing. So unforced errors need to be very minimal moving forward, especially in the situation he's in. But look, the truth prevails. Look at that shit with the Georgia DA. I mean, we need to talk about that. I wanted to talk about that on air, not just on the after show.
Yeah.
Because that's a big deal. So you have a woman DA, this DA that appointed this special prosecutor because I think he still works for her, and taxpayer dollars are being paid to him. I can't even fathom $900,000. I've heard some.
Yeah.
accounts, it was close to 1 million, that he's been paid. That's insane to be. I mean, sign me up for that gig. I mean, but and then he's they're banging each other and going to trips together. What money are you spending on these trips? I mean, so if you wanted to get a very aggressive prosecutor on the other side, there could be some
very legitimate conflict of interest here.
But not just that, but this needs to be looked at. Was this inappropriate use of funds?
Yeah.
And has it been trickled to her? And where are your bank account? I can't help it. You have to ask the question now. I mean, so you have this intimate relationship with this person, which whatever, you do what you want on your private time, but not in this scenario. It taints everything.
So again, Trump's vindicated in a sense because he's been claiming these kinds of nefarious arrangements have been going on behind the scenes. There's a prosecutorial effort here. This is prosecutorial malpractice here. And this gets into what the motivations are. So, I usually like to let the dust settle on this, but Nico's right. This is pretty significant. I just want to see what the outcome is going to be of this thing. I wonder where this goes. And I wonder if it's going to mean anything. Because again, when the mind is fractured and when thinking becomes normalized, then at some point, does the truth really matter? And I hope it does. I hope that the facts will be considered here, and that this will be considered concerning and worth following up, investigating. I don't know though. My optimism is a little low.
I am going to watch 300 tonight.
Watch it.
No, I've watched it already, and the reason is, if you haven't seen it, George, all of the creatures and the bad. I mean, it does remind you of what's going on, and all of they'll try everything to beat him. And
Nico's watched 2 movies in his whole lifetime. He's watched The Green Mile.
The Green Mile.
Oh, I saw that 100 years ago.
And 300. Now, it just so happens that both of those are great movies. So that helps.
There's a lot of good fodder and Tombstone in there too.
I love The Godfather. Which one? 1972, the first one?
The first 2.
That's right. Godfather 1 and 2 are pretty good. Yeah, the third was Godfather 3. What was that, like 1990?
You're looking at a person who's not seen any of them. I've got to watch it
Francis Ford. Yeah, I really like Andy Garcia as an actor.
I love Andy
liked him in that.
Garcia.
That guy,
good.
That guy was amazing.
No, the movie was good. She just screwed it up because she sucked.
Yeah, I think she did too.
The daughter of Michael Corleone.
I agree. Sophia Coppola, Francis Ford Coppola.
Oh, okay.
But Dad?
His cousin, love interest.
I love you.
Yeah, she was pretty bland.
Not like the wife on 300.
Badass.
She had like negative
Total
charisma in that
badass.
movie. But Andy Garcia, man, that guy carried the movie. His intense,
Yep.
his loyalty.
Yep.
I mean, he was tough. I just love watching him.
He did a great job.
But anyway, I don't know how we get back to New Hampshire, but
We don't.
But I wanted to just mention that there's a play that with Christie dropping out, that this is going to help
Nikki Haley.
Help Nikki.
That's
and where they're thinking that's really going to help. That doesn't help in Iowa because Chris Christie had
10 votes.
Yeah. All 7 people who supported him in Iowa aren't really going to help her. But they're thinking in New Hampshire because he's endorsed her, even while he's saying that she's unprepared, she's going to get smoked.
Christie finally did endorse
I love
her?
it.
Yeah, of course he
Oh,
is. He's a
I
hack.
thought he didn't.
Of course he's going to
I thought he didn't. That's why I was like, well,
what's his deal with Trump? I mean, this guy.
Trump called him fat.
Is that what happened?
Oh no, he endorsed. So he drops out.
No, but
So
he was sucking his,
I understand.
face, whatever. I mean, before that,
You asked
when
for
he
it,
wanted a
George.
job,
Right.
and then all of a sudden,
Right.
now I mean, it's like the Robert De Niro thing. Robert De Niro's weird. He's got bad Trump deranged syndrome.
Oh, my
it's
gosh.
like Trump.
I think it's
he
clinical.
slept with one of his
Yes.
girlfriends
Yes.
maybe back in the day when
Yep.
they were doing the whole, making the rounds on women.
It's clinical.
Because
Yeah.
De Niro's just stupid when it comes to.
De Niro's crazy to
Illogical.
watch. I mean, he's
like
crazy
Joy
to watch. I almost
Behar
think he's like
level of
auditioning
crazy.
for a crazy movie.
Yeah.
because he's really crazy. I mean,
Don't
he's
like Trump if you don't want to like Trump, but to that, it's just weird.
It's almost clinical. His level to which he's unhinged. In nuclear physics, we call it a rapid disassembly. I mean,
have to write that down.
There's a complete meltdown whenever Trump comes up. But Christie, I think it goes back to 2020. It was a clear falling out. He endorsed Trump. I think he was going to end up in the Trump
what
administration.
Happened? Why? Because when we didn't pick him in the administration.
Trump, I think, recognized that. Look, Christie is an opportunist. The man is loyal to no one.
Yeah.
I mean,
And that's exactly what Trump hates.
and Trump, that's oil and water. And I think he smoked that out early on. And so thanks, but no thanks. Just kind of like Romney. Remember Romney was kissing his ass for a while, and that went over like a lead balloon. So, and I think they carry those slights, especially Christie. But I think Christie's showing at about 12 points in New Hampshire. And so the thinking is that right now Trump is an average of 14 above Haley. above.
So those 12, if it transfers.
That's an
over-
average. That's an average. So they're thinking, okay, 12 points. Now the assumption is that they're all going to go to Nikki. That's the assumption. I think that's a stretch. That's a real stretch, and so I frankly don't think it's going to happen. I mean, I think what you're going to see after Iowa, honestly, I think DeSantis really should drop out. He's going to lose. He's going to come in third, Nico. He's probably put virtually every single campaign dollar into Iowa. That organization's broke. So I don't know what the path forward is for DeSantis. I don't get it. I don't understand it. And I think I think there's talk about him forming a ticket with Nikki Haley.
Oh God.
Haley DeSantis. There was some going back and
Not
forth
after
about
the
that.
debate. I mean,
They asked him about it. He goes, "For what? You thinking about joining forces?" And he says, "For what?" And she said, "Of course, well, I'd be willing to consider it." Typical.
It was weird.
It's just weird. The
I
whole
didn't
thing's
watch
weird.
it. I just saw
I didn't.
clips. It was weird. Everything's weird.
I mean, they're distant number twos, for goodness sakes.
Everything's
Both of them
weird.
are in the basement, and they're sitting there talking about, well, let's see. I mean, it's the hubris and the arrogance.
Nikki Haley
of it.
really has shown her colors, man. This last year.
I do not like
I mean,
her.
did you see that? I saw the clip that was out there about, and we'll wrap up right now. But that when DeSantis was, can you compliment Haley at all? She did a very good job as a U.S. ambassador. I thought some of her positions were good, and he gave a more thoughtful answer. And what about you, Miss Haley, whatever, Nikki? What do you say about Governor DeSantis? He's a good governor. It was a weird. Okay,
Yeah.
it was weird. They're just weird. Doesn't matter. Neither one's going to win, and we don't need either one of them right
Right.
now. I mean, we got to worry about the border and some things that are really in this division
Yeah.
in this country and international effects. I mean, and then we're bombing the Houthis or whatever,
Houthis.
and bombing some mud
What the-
huts and shit. Nobody doing. Those weren't significant bombings. We're just wasting.
That's a huge topic.
Well, then we'll do it next week. I gotta go. We gotta go. All right.
He's doing the party 7 seconds.
Well,
Let's
just
talk about the
wet my
Houthis.
beak. It's a big deal.
The Houthis.
All right, guys. Thanks for
Houthis.
joining us. Anything to say,
Hooters.
Karen? Anything?
No, nothing.
Stay warm.
No, yeah.
Run
Put
your
your plants
faucets.
away.
Run
Put
your faucets a little
faucets,
bit.
open up your bottom
Insulate them.
cabinets, insulate, and
Cover your
bring
hose
grandma
bridge.
in.
Insulate your hose.
Bring grandma
Grandma's
inside.
I'm having
Remind
that
me.
done today.
Thanks.
Yeah.
Yeah. All right, guys. God bless you guys. Enjoy this. Enjoy the weekend. Stay warm.
Watch out from them Houthis.
Yeah.
Houthis.
God bless you guys.